In the cold, unyielding calculus of mammalian biology, nature has assigned a stark and often brutal role to the male of the species. Across the animal kingdom, we observe a consistent pattern where males act as the disposable shield. From the alpha, defending a territory, to the worker drone, the male exists to absorb risk so that the core reproductive potential of the group remains protected. This is not a matter of morality, but of evolutionary math. One male can facilitate the reproduction of many females, making the individual male biologically expendable in the pursuit of group survival. For tens of thousands of years, this biological reality dictated the architecture of human society. What we now categorize through a modern lens as the patriarchy was, in its inception, a sophisticated survival contract. In a world of predators, famine, and rival tribes, the social structure demanded that men occupy the outer perimeter of existence. They were the warriors, the hunters, and the laborers who braved the elements. In exchange for this high-risk burden, they were granted authority and status within the internal hierarchy. This was the foundational trade-off of antiquity: protection and provision for social stability. From the rise of the first city-states in Mesopotamia to the dawn of the industrial age, this arrangement remained largely intact. Social norms, religious doctrines, and legal codes were all built to reinforce this divide. Men were conditioned for sacrifice, and women were positioned at the center of the domestic sphere to ensure the continuation of the lineage. This system, while rigid, was incredibly efficient at scaling human populations and taming a hostile planet for over 5,000 years of recorded history. However, the Industrial Revolution acted as a catalyst for a profound biological decoupling. As machines replaced muscle, the traditional male utility of physical force began to wane. The safety and abundance of the modern world slowly rendered the shield obsolete. By the late 20th century, the biological debt that humanity had accrued, the reliance on these rigid gender roles, began to be called in. The structures that once ensured our survival started to be viewed as cages rather than fortifications. In the contemporary era, the rebranding of masculinity has reached a fever pitch. Traditional male behaviors, once lauded as virtues of protection, are now frequently categorized under the catch-all term, toxic masculinity. While the term was intended to describe harmful societal expectations, it has evolved in the public consciousness into a critique of male nature itself. This shift has created a vacuum of identity for young men, who find themselves in a world that no longer requires their physical protection, but still demands their psychological endurance. Simultaneously, the dating market has undergone a radical transformation. With the rise of digital platforms and the economic independence of women, the traditional incentives for partnership have dissolved. We now see a growing sentiment where women are perceived as increasingly unreliable by a segment of the male population, who feel the contract has been unilaterally broken. This is not a personal failure of individuals, but a systemic friction born from the fact that we are trying to navigate 21st century technology with Pleistocene-era instincts. The result is what many observers describe as a war between the sexes. This is no longer just a social disagreement. It is a clash of radicalized ideologies. On one side, we see a brand of left-wing liberation that occasionally descends into a rejection of biological reality altogether, viewing all differences as purely social constructs. On the other side, we see a resurgence of right-wing fascism and hyper-traditionalism that seeks to forcibly return society to a past that no longer exists. Both extremes offer a false sense of certainty in an uncertain world. These extremist ideologies feed off each other, creating a feedback loop of resentment. The left's push for total deconstruction often alienates those who find meaning in tradition, while the right's reactionary rhetoric often threatens the genuine progress made in individual rights. As these two poles pull further apart, the middle ground, where healthy families and stable communities are built, is being hollowed out. The victims of this ideological war are not just the men and women of today, but the generations that will never be born. The most compelling evidence of this failing system is found in the demographic data. Across the developed world, birth rates are plummeting well below replacement levels. In countries like Japan, South Korea, and much of Europe, the numbers tell a story of a civilization that has lost the ability to reproduce itself. When the war between the sexes reaches a stalemate, the result is not victory for one side, but a collective decline. We are witnessing the first time in history where the pursuit of individual self-actualization has come into direct conflict with species survival. Family formation, once the bedrock of every successful civilization, is now seen by many as a high-risk investment with diminishing returns. The decline in marriage rates and the rise of single-person households are not merely lifestyle choices. They are symptoms of a deep-seated biological and social debt. We have dismantled the old structures without building viable replacements that honor both our modern values and our evolutionary needs. The biological debt is now coming due. We cannot ignore the reality that we are biological creatures with specific needs for connection, protection, and purpose. If we continue to allow our gender politics to be dictated by the loudest voices at the extremes, we risk a total collapse of the social fabric. To move forward, we must move past the rhetoric of blame. We must acknowledge the disposable shield of the past and the unreliable market of the present as parts of the same broken equation. In conclusion, the path to a sustainable future requires an analytical reconciliation. We must find a way to honor the individual without sacrificing the collective, and to acknowledge our biology without being enslaved by it. The biological debt is not an insurmountable obstacle, but it is a reality that demands an honest accounting. Only by moving beyond the radicalized ideologies of the left and the right can we hope to rebuild the bridge between the sexes and ensure that the human story continues into the next millennium. We must ask ourselves if we are willing to pay the price of survival, or if we will remain locked in a conflict that leads only to silence. The evidence is clear. The choice is ours. Let us choose a future built on understanding rather than debt.